They warned him. Not once, not twice. But in a village like Obodo, a man's warnings were not given lightly. They said there was a forest, a place where even the bravest hunters refused to step. A place called Ohia Forest. But Obinna was not like other men. The morning began like any other, but it did not feel normal. At the edge of a thick, silent forest, two young hunters struggled through tangled bushes, dragging something behind them. Their breathing was heavy, uneven, more from fear than exhaustion. When they finally stopped, what lay between them was not a body, but something almost worse. A torn hunting bag. It was soaked in dried blood. Chike bent slightly, staring at it as if hoping it would suddenly explain itself. "This is Nwosu's bag," he said, his voice tight. Beside him, Ikenna shook his head slowly, still trying to process what they were seeing. He said he was only checking his traps near Omuagwo River. His voice faded as both men instinctively turned their gaze toward a darker stretch of trees ahead. That part of the forest felt wrong. Chike spoke again, this time in a lower tone. "I hope this is not what I'm thinking. If you remember, this is the same area where Motsi's body was found." Ikenna nodded reluctantly. "Yes, that's true." For a brief moment, silence pressed in on them. Then Chike forced himself to speak. "Let's search the bushes. Maybe he's still around." But Ikenna stepped back immediately. "I think this place is a no-go area. I can't risk my life." Chike looked at him, then back at the forest, and made a decision. "Okay. Let's inform the elder hunters." And just like that, they left, carrying fear with them. Later that day, the village square of Obodo Amans was alive with noise and movement. Women bargained loudly over goods. Buyers moved from stall to stall. And at the center of attention stood a man whose presence naturally drew eyes. Obinna. In front of him lay 3 freshly killed antelopes, clean, impressive, and clearly hunted by a skilled hand. A woman buyer smiled widely as she examined the meat. "Obinna, your hands are blessed. See how fresh this is." Obinna smirked slightly, clearly enjoying the admiration. "Fresh, because I don't fear where animals hide." An elderly man nearby, leaning on his staff, looked at him with quiet concern. "Fear keeps a man alive." Obinna didn't hesitate. "Fear keeps a man poor." A few young men nearby laughed, impressed by his boldness. One of them stepped closer. "Teach us how you enter thick forests alone." Obinna glanced at them, then said calmly, "It is simple. The forest fears the man who does not beg it." As he collected his payment, carefully counting his cowries, his eyes lingered, not just on the money, but on what more he could gain. That evening, the mood changed. At the hunter's rest spot, palm wine flowed, but conversation was heavy. Ikenna spoke first. "Nwosu is missing." Silence followed. Chike added, "We found his bag near Omuagwo River." Slowly, all eyes turned toward Obinna. An old hunter broke the silence. "That path leads to Ohia Forest." A younger hunter shifted uneasily. "They say animals there don't even run. No traps, no hunters." Another added in a whisper, "Because something else hunts there." Obinna drank calmly, unaffected. "You mean that forest is truly dangerous?" "Yes," the old hunter replied firmly. Ikenna added, "Even the bravest hunters avoid it." Obinna leaned forward slightly. "And that is why it is full." "Full of what?" the old hunter asked. Obinna's voice was steady. "Meat." He continued without hesitation. "You all know me. I hunt where others fear." The old hunter studied him carefully. "Then you want to risk your life?" Obinna stood. "Life is built on risk. If something is dangerous, that is exactly where I go." And with that, he walked away. Behind him, Ikenna muttered quietly, "He's arrogant because of the power he inherited from his father." The old hunter sighed. "I pray he learns how dangerous Ohia Forest truly is." That night, in his compound, Obinna prepared. His mother, Maman Zub, sat quietly sorting maize, her face heavy with worry. I heard what the hunters said today, she began. Obinna said nothing, focused on cleaning his gun. There are places money should not push a man into, she continued. Obinna responded without looking up. Do you know how much 3 antelopes brought today? She stopped sorting and looked at him directly. I know hunger. I know poverty. And I know pride. Then she added, more seriously, your father once said, the forest does not fight with noise. It waits. For a brief moment Obinna paused. Then he resumed. Let it wait. Tomorrow I will hunt in Ohia Forest. Nothing will stop me. At dawn, he went alone. Mist covered the path toward Umuagwo River. The air felt quieter than usual. Even the birds seemed fewer. When he reached the riverbank, he stopped and stared across at the darker forest beyond. They are only trees, he murmured. Then he crossed. Inside Ohia Forest, everything changed. The silence was unnatural. No insects, no life sounds. The trees stood thick, blocking out most of the light. Then suddenly, a deer. Calm. Unmoving. Obinna raised his gun. Gunshot. The deer dropped instantly. He smiled. So this is what they fear? He moved deeper. Another animal. Another shot. Another easy kill. But then the air shifted. Leaves rustled, but no branches moved. Obinna stopped. Who's there? No answer. Only a strange whisper, not words, but presence. He tightened his grip on his amulet. Show yourself. A shadow moved, too fast, not human. Something struck him from behind. He stumbled, anger rising. Enough! He turned and fired. A strange cry echoed, not animal. The air grew heavier. Then he saw it. A shape. Almost human, but distorted. More shadows appeared. One, then several. They surrounded him. For the first time, his confidence wavered, just slightly. So, the stories were true, he whispered. Then a deeper voice filled the forest. Leave. Obinna's jaw tightened. You don't tell me when to leave. You have taken enough. I want more, Obinna replied. And you cannot stop me. A pause. Then the voice answered. Then you will learn. Suddenly, all the shadows rushed him at once. The next day, at the forest edge, Chike, Ikenna, and an old hunter stood tensely. Then, a gunshot. That's Obinna, Ikenna said. Another shot followed. Moments later, Obinna emerged from the forest, carrying a large antelope. Alive. Unshaken. Victorious. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, laughing. He dropped the animal. There are many more inside. Help me bring them out. But none of them move. We were warned, Chike said. No one enters that forest again, Ikenna added. Greed kills faster than poison, the old hunter warned. Obinna only smiled. Then stay here. I'll bring them myself. Later, as he returned again with another kill, a spirit appeared before him. Hunter, it called. Obinna stopped, but did not retreat. If you want to fight, stand properly. You were warned. I was not stopped. Do not return again. Obinna walked past it. No spirit dictates my path. The spirit's voice followed him. Your next visit will not be pleasant. Obinna didn't turn back. Then prepare better. The forest did not forget. On another day, though it felt like the same unbroken moment of arrogance, Obinna returned to Ohia Forest. This time, he did not come as a man testing his courage. He came as something worse. A man who believed he had already won. The air felt heavier than before, the silence thicker, like the forest itself was watching him more closely now. But Obinna walked in without hesitation, his steps firm, his eyes sharp with hunger, not for survival, but for dominance. He stopped at a familiar clearing and looked around slowly, as if inspecting land he now owned. Let today be greater than yesterday, he said under his breath. Then he knelt. His fingers pressed into the soil, and his voice dropped into something deeper, older. The kind of voice that did not entirely belong to him. By the blood of my father, by the power that walks with my name, let the hidden be revealed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the forest answered. A sudden rush of movement tore through the stillness, and a spirit lunged toward him, fast, furious, and without hesitation. You were warned, the spirit roared. But Obinna was ready. In one swift motion, he scooped sand from the ground, whispered into it, and blew sharply. Return to dust. The sand struck the spirit like a force unseen. There was a violent shudder, a sharp cracking sound, and then silence. The spirit collapsed. Gone. Destroyed. Obinna rose slowly, his breathing steady, his face unchanged. If anything, he looked disappointed. Then two more figures emerged from the shadows. Not rushing this time. Not careless. They carried something heavier. Rage, grief, and something dangerously close to intelligence. You killed our son, one of them said, his voice trembling with restrained fury. Obinna didn't flinch. He attacked me, he replied coldly. You entered where is forbidden, the other spirit cried. Obinna's lips curved slightly, not into a smile, but into something harder. I take what I can conquer. That was when the air shifted again. This was no longer a hunt. This was a confrontation. Obinna reached into his pouch and brought out a small gourd. He opened it slowly, deliberately, like a man who understood exactly what he was about to do. Let darkness answer darkness. He poured the black powder into the air. What followed was not a simple reaction, it was an eruption. The forest seemed to recoil. Light flickered violently. The ground itself felt unstable, as though something beneath it had been disturbed. The spirit screamed. Not in fear. Not even in pain. But in recognition. And then they fell. Silence returned once more. But this time it did not feel empty. It felt wounded. Obinna stood there, chest rising and falling, not out of fear, but from exertion. Even power had its cost. Yet he straightened, rolled his shoulders slightly, and looked around again. This forest needs stronger guardians, he muttered. And just like that, he continued hunting. As if nothing had happened. As if 3 lives, 3 spirits, had not just been erased from existence. Far from the physical world, beyond what human eyes could ever see, something else stirred. The spirit realm. A place where silence carried memory and loss had weight. A young female spirit knelt on the ground, her form trembling as she hovered over 3 still figures. Her family. Her voice broke as she spoke. My parents, my brother. Around her, other spirits began to gather, drawn not just by death, but by the unnatural force behind it. An elder spirit stepped forward, his presence calm but heavy with understanding. Do not cry, he said gently. But she did not stop. Her grief was not soft. It was sharp, focused. He ended my bloodline. Those words did not fade into the air. They settled. They meant something. Slowly, she rose to her feet. There were no tears now. Only resolve. I do not fear death, she said, her voice steady in a way that made the others shift slightly. I will avenge them. And without waiting for permission, without seeking comfort, she turned and walked away. Not aimlessly, but with purpose. Elsewhere in the spirit realm, a council had already begun. Spirits sat in a wide circle, their forms faintly glowing, their presence controlled, disciplined. This was not chaos. This was strategy. At the center stood the elder. This hunter is not ordinary, he began. Murmurs followed, not of doubt but of agreement. Direct attack will fail, another spirit added. He carries ancestral power, a third said. That was the truth they could not ignore. Obinna was not just reckless. He was protected, empowered, and that made him dangerous in a way few humans had ever been. The elder nodded slowly. Then we do not meet him with force. The room grew quieter. That decision alone shifted everything. We study him, the elder continued. We find his weakness. That was when the murmurs stopped completely. Because now, this was no longer about defense. This was about something else. Something far more dangerous. understanding. Every spirit in the circle nodded, one after the other. Not out of fear, but agreement, because for the first time, the forest was no longer reacting. It was preparing. And somewhere between the world of the living and the dead, a war had just begun. Not of strength, but of patience. And Obinna, whether he knew it or not, had just become the target. The forest had chosen patience, and patience, unlike power, rarely failed. In the cold stillness of the spirit realm, a quiet decision was taking shape, one that would change everything. Ayun knelt at the center of the spirit council, her posture steady, her face stripped of grief but not of purpose. Around her, the elders sat in a wide circle, their voices calm, measured, and dangerous in their certainty. "We have seen his strength," the spirit elder said. "Force will not break him." Another spirit nodded. "His power is ancestral. Direct battle is foolishness." Silence followed, not confusion, but calculation. "Then how do we render him powerless?" the elder asked. A third spirit leaned forward slightly. "We study him." A pause. Then the same voice continued, sharper now. "Send Ayun." Every gaze turned toward her. "Let her take human form," the spirit said. "Let her become desire, let her become comfort." A low murmur of agreement spread through the council. "Marriage is closer than war," the elder concluded. Ayun did not hesitate. "I am ready." But the elder's voice dropped, heavy with meaning. "Can you bind yourself to the man who killed your bloodline?" For a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes. Then it hardened. "That is the quickest path to revenge." The decision was sealed. "Then go," the elder said. "Become what he cannot resist." And as the light around her shifted, Ayun began to change, her spirit form folding into flesh, grief reshaping into beauty, vengeance dressing itself in elegance. She would not attack Obinna. She would enter his life. The next morning, Obinna stood before his shrine, unaware that his greatest battle had already begun. He knelt, chanting softly, calling on the strength that had protected him this far. "Spirits that walk with my father's blood, guard me as I enter the forest." He poured libation, rose to his feet, and reached for his weapons. "My wife, I am going for game," he called. From inside, a distracted voice answered, "Go well. Take care of the children." A simple followed. There was no warmth in it. And though Obinna said nothing, something in him carried that silence into the forest. That day the forest felt different. He had hunted for hours, yet his success was disappointing. "Only 2 grass cutters since morning," he muttered. Then he felt it. A presence. He turned and saw her. Ayun. Not as a spirit, but as a woman. Elegant, calm, almost unreal in her beauty. "You are truly brave," she said softly. Obinna's eyes narrowed slightly, studying her. "You think I do not know who you are?" She smiled. "Then why fear me? I have no business with you. I came for meat. You have not killed much today." That made him pause. Then she offered it, simple, tempting. "Accept me, and I will send more game your way." Obinna exhaled sharply, dismissing her. "I am not interested. I know how to get what is meant for me." And he walked away. But the seed had been planted. The next day, the forest turned against him. No animals. No movement. Nothing. By midday, frustration had replaced confidence. Since morning, not even a rodent. Exhausted, he sat beneath a tree. That was when she appeared again. This time, closer. Her hand touched his shoulder gently. "Leave my path," he snapped. But her voice remained calm. "I know you have a wife, and 3 children." That caught his attention. "Then why follow me?" "Today," she said, "I will push game toward you. I need no help. Follow the right path." She pointed. Obinna hesitated. Then, quietly, he said, "Let me test this." Moments later, the forest came alive. Movement. Sound. Opportunity. And when he returned, dragging an animal larger than anything he had caught in days, His laughter echoed through the trees. This is incredible! That was the moment everything shifted. Success followed him back to the village. The market buzzed with excitement. This meat is rare. I have never seen anything like this. Money flowed, and Obinna smiled. But wealth does not silence problems. It often exposes them. That night, his compound was not peaceful. His wife's voice cut through the air. He thinks because he brings money, he owns this house. Lower your voice, a neighbor warned. Let him hear. I am tired. Obinna stepped in quietly. Enough, he said. But the damage was done. Later, sitting alone beneath a tree, he spoke his thoughts aloud. This disrespect is now habitual. He sighed deeply. If I marry another wife, will she change? Then, slowly his thoughts turned. To who? A pause. That girl in the forest? No. Silence. Then, she knows where wealth hides. His voice softened. Yesterday, I prospered because of her. And finally, perhaps, I will consider it. The trap had begun to close. When he returned to the forest, he did not deny it this time. You came back, Ayun said. I came for game. And for conversation. He didn't argue. What troubles you? She asked. Nothing. Strong men carry silent burdens. That was all it took. Respect is fading in my house, he admitted. A man deserves peace, she replied gently. He looked at her differently now. Longer. If you were human, things would be different. She met his gaze. Who says I am not? And from that moment distance disappeared. In the spirit realm, Ayun stood once more before the elders. You are falling, Obinna, she said quietly, almost to herself. Progress? The elder asked. His heart is opening. Good. Soon, he will choose me. And when he does, his power will no longer be whole. And soon enough, it happened. Standing before her in the forest, Obinna spoke plainly. If I take you as wife, you must obey my rules. I will obey, she said sweetly. Then prepare. I will speak to the elders. As he walked away, satisfied with his decision, Ayun turned slowly, her smile no longer soft. The hunter walks into his own trap. Marriage changed everything. At first, it looked like peace. Ayun moved through Obinna's compound with grace and precision, her every action calculated yet flawless. I have prepared your husband's meal, she told the elder wife gently. You are very fast, came the cold reply. Obinna noticed the difference immediately. The compound looks different, he said. It should feel peaceful when you return, Ayun replied. And for the first time in a long while, it did. But peace can create new tensions. You have changed, the elder wife accused him. She brings peace, Obinna said. Or control. He ended the conversation. But the doubt lingered. Ayun's next move was careful. She entered his shrine, but did not touch. So this is where your strength sleeps, she whispered. She studied everything. The sand. The powders. The charms. But she held back. I will make him speak, she decided. That night she did. With softness. With patience. With calculated affection. Lying with his head on her lap, Obinna relaxed completely. You are a wonderful husband, she said. You bring me peace. Then she introduced fear. What if enemies send spirits here? He sat up immediately. That is not possible. But what if it happens? A pause. Then he said the words that sealed his fate. I can show you how to eliminate any spirit. At the shrine, he revealed everything. My power lies in this sacred sand, any spirit it touches turns to ash. And this black powder, nothing survives it. And this amulet, he touched his chest, as long as it is with me, no force can bind me. Ayun listened carefully. But just as he began to reveal the final secret, Obinna! His mother's voice cut through the moment. Suspicion filled the air. Why are you behaving foolishly? She demanded. Ayun stepped back into the shadows. Watching. Learning. Waiting. The next day, her thoughts were clear. Sacred sand, black powder, amulet. But something was missing. There is something more. Still, she smiled. I have enough. Back in the spirit realm, the elders listened. I know his weapons, she reported. But the final protection? I was interrupted. The elder's tone sharpened. Incomplete knowledge is dangerous. I have enough, Ayun insisted. After a long pause, the elder handed her a gourd. Pour this on his powers. It will render them useless. That night, as Obinna slept peacefully, unaware of the storm beside him, Ayun sat quietly. Her fingers moved slowly toward the amulet resting on his chest. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Soon, you will not be untouchable. And in the darkness, her smile returned. Cold. Certain. Unstoppable. Night fell differently that day. Not with peace, but with a warning. Obinna moved through the forest with quiet confidence, his steps measured, his senses sharp. The night air was thick, wrapped in the sound of crickets and distant owls. A low rhythm seemed to pulse beneath everything, as though the forest itself was breathing. Tonight, he murmured to himself, the forest yields to me. But the forest did not answer. Instead, thunder. A sudden crack split the sky. Obinna froze mid-step. That was no ordinary thunder. Another flash followed, louder, closer, heavier. He placed a hand on his chest, his expression tightening. My chest, something is wrong. And then he knew. Not in his mind, but in his spirit. Home. Without another thought, he turned. Spirits, do not test me tonight. And he ran. At that same moment, in the silence of his shrine, Ayun stood alone. But she was no longer the gentle wife who brought peace into his home. That version of her was gone. What stood there now was something colder. Something older. Something that had waited long enough. The strength of the hunter, she whispered, lifting a calabash filled with dark liquid, ends tonight. She moved directly to the gourd that held Obinna's black powder, the very force that had destroyed her family. You protected him for years, she said softly. Then, without hesitation, she poured. Now, you protect nothing. The moment the liquid touched the powder, thunder exploded across the sky. Lightning tore through the darkness. The shrine trembled. The lantern flickered violently, as if struggling to survive. And the balance shifted. Ayun smiled. Now he is powerless. The amulet hanging nearby quivered faintly. But it was too late. Your charms cannot hear you anymore, Obinna. The wind began to rise. And so did she. Her body stiffened. Her shadow stretched, unnatural, monstrous, towering behind her like something no longer bound to human form. Let the spirit rise. Her voice deepened, layered with something inhuman. Blood seals destiny. Darkness wrapped around her like a cloak. The air thickened. And when she lifted a second calabash, this one filled with something far more final, her words carried no hesitation. Tonight the house falls. Inside Obinna's hut there was no warning. Only fear. His wife sat with the children, unaware that death had already crossed the threshold. Then, the door burst open. Wind rushed in. And Ayun stepped through. Not as a woman, but as judgment. Who are you? The elder wife cried, pulling the children close. Your protector is gone, Ayun replied. The room fell into panic. Please, spare them, the woman begged, shielding the children with her body. Take me instead. Ayun's eyes did not soften. Mercy left this house long ago. The children trembled. Please, don't kill us. For a brief moment. Silence. The kind that feels like the world is holding its breath. Then Ayun raised the calabash. And poured. Light flashed. Sound vanished. And one by one, they fell. No struggle. No scream. Just stillness. The elder wife's voice barely survived the moment. Obinna. Then. Nothing. Ayun stood over them, her breathing calm, her purpose fulfilled. It is finished. Slowly, she returned to human form. And slipped into the shadows. Waiting. When Obinna arrived, he already knew. The silence greeted him first. Too quiet. Too empty. Why is the compound silent? He called out, his voice tightening. Then he stepped forward. And saw. Everything. His weapon slipped from his hand. No. He dropped to his knees beside his wife. Wake up. He shook her gently. Wake up. Nothing. He turned to the children. No, no, no. Something inside him broke. He stood slowly, his body trembling, his voice no longer human. Who would have done this? The sky answered with distant thunder. And from the shadows, Ayun watched, unseen, unmoved. I swear, Obinna said, his voice shaking with rage, I will hunt the soul responsible. But the hunter had already been hunted. The night deepened, and grief became something heavier. Obinna knelt among the bodies, his world reduced to loss. My house, my blood, my lineage. He looked up, his voice raw. Whoever did this, face me. And this time, something answered. You call and I answer. He froze. Slowly he turned. And there she stood. Not his wife. Not his companion. But the truth. You, he whispered. You killed my family, Ayun said calmly. She stepped forward. I have killed yours. Her hand gestured toward the lifeless bodies. Remaining you, I will get rid of. The weight of realization crashed into him. So you, this beast. Her smile was cold. Justice wears many faces. Obinna ran. Not in fear, but in instinct. To the shrine. To power. To the only thing that had never failed him. My powers will answer you. He reached for the sacred sand. Empty. No. He grabbed the powder gourd. Nothing. No. His eyes shot upward. The amulet. Gone. Where are my powers? His voice echoed, hollow and broken. Behind him, Ayun appeared. I am wiser than you. He turned slowly, dread settling into his bones. You. I want you to try, she said, circling him. Show me your strength, great hunter. For the first time, Obinna had nothing. He fell to his knees. Is this how I end? His fist struck the ground. It is a shame to be powerless before this small spirit. His voice cracked. Is this how I will die? Yes, Ayun answered simply. Your life ends today. She raised her hand. The wind stirred faintly. And then, something changed. Wait! Obinna closed his eyes. Breathing. Searching. Remembering. There is one power. I never revealed. Ayun paused. What trick is this? He stood slowly. The power to command the wind. Her expression shifted, just slightly. Impossible. I destroyed your strength. Not all strength lives in objects. He spread his arms. The air responded. I command you. The wind began to rise. Wind. It grew stronger. Come. Dust lifted. Cloth snapped. The night itself seemed to awaken. Take this beast away. The force exploded. Ayun staggered. No! The wind wrapped around her, violent, unstoppable. Her form struggled, twisted. Then, she was gone. Silence. Total. Heavy. Final. Dawn crept in slowly. Pale. Empty. Obinna stood alone. It is over. But the words meant nothing. He turned toward the bodies. And whatever strength remained in him vanished. He fell. What is a hunter without his family? His voice broke into something deeper than grief. I won, but I lost everything. His hand pressed into the earth. Father, is this the inheritance you gave me? No answer came. Only silence. And a broken man, surrounded by everything he could not save. Power is a gift, but power is also a burden. Obinna conquered spirit, but he did not guard his heart. He protected his strength, but neglected what mattered most. And in the end, he won the battle, but lost his world. Now tell me, if you were Obinna in that final moment, would you still choose power, knowing it could cost you everything you love? Let us know your thought in the comments section. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to Nokara Stories for more powerful tales of destiny, betrayal, and legacy.